Hello and welcome to Brian's Tips for improving your ability to take effective notes. Today we will look at annotation and its application as a strategy that not only allows us to get at the heart of what we are reading, but also as a skill that enhances our ability to understand what we have read. As students, our time management often becomes a balancing act, and finding ways to improve our study time, especially where reading for comprehension is concerned, is an important factor. With annotation, we are able to manage a lot of information from what is read while retaining or learning through active note-taking. So what does it mean to annotate? Simply put, annotation is just another fancy word for taking notes. However, the strategy requires us to be active readers through note-taking. 3 steps are important in order for the strategy to be useful to us. First, you make decisions on what you feel is important or relevant to remember. Next, you do not copy word for word what is being noted. The idea is to put what you have read into your own words. This leads us to the third point. The process of effective annotation requires you to think about what you have read before you write. The next question is, why would you want to annotate? Perhaps the most important part of annotation is the ability to take large amounts of information and reduce it down to a manageable size. We can condense information down to main points, supporting details, etc. This is much like an outline, but because we are writing within the columns of the book, space is limited and our approach is slightly different. Another consideration for annotating relates to organization. Information can be found everywhere on a page. We can identify relevant information and organize it logically so that we can make sense of it. Lastly, there is a unique opportunity to monitor your learning. In writing in your own words what you have read, you can see if you have understood what was presented in your reading. What we annotate depends on what we are attempting to comprehend and of course to what subject we are addressing. Since annotation requires making decisions on what is important to take notes on, here are some tips on what we should be looking for. These include definitions, examples, people, places, and dates, lists, relationships, and of course predicted test questions. Remember, the process requires that we read first, think about what was read, then write in our own words. To explain annotation in a better light, let's tackle an example together. Okay, let's look at a page from text from a history book. The subject is the Great Depression. In our first paragraph, we noticed that there are dates and statistics that help to highlight the financial aspects of the Depression. For me, I've asked, how can I take so many facts and condense them into something I can understand? Here, I have made annotations that I felt were important to remember. Let's start with the date 1930. In the column adjacent to our paragraph, I have decided to use this date as a starting point. And I have written, by early 1930, economy weakens as shown by. Next, I will have to fill in some details. I found it important to list industrial production was at 50% by 1932. Unemployment was up by 1932, and personal income was cut by half between 1929 and 1932. We also have reference to a cycle in the paragraph. The cycle includes low wages, less buying power, low production, and workers laid off as factors of the cycle. How can I make this easier for me to see? Since visual aids have always helped me, I decided a small circle will work. I start with the depression causes cycle. Then I list each aspect of the cycle in a circular pattern. With this visual aid, I can see how low wages have led to less buying power, causing fewer things to be made, and because the factories aren't making money, workers are let go. Let's try this next paragraph together. Our next paragraph talks of the effects of the Depression on farmers. Simplicity means everything in my note-taking. So I word things as they would make sense to me. I begin with farmers hit very hard. I can get right to the point. Lost homes, farms, and became homeless. This is directly to the point, saving me both time and effort. One unique aspect to annotation is looking for hints of what may be important. In paragraph 3, we see Hoovervilles in boldface. I would think that this is something the authors want me to remember, and could predict that this would be a question my professor may put on a future test. So in the right column, I would put Hoovervilles. Most likely I'm going to be needing a definition, so I would follow this by the definition of shacks where people barely survived. Also, there is a mention that these are named out of bitterness toward the president at that time. I would also include that. I would take it from that these were horrible living conditions, and Hoover was blamed for the Depression. As we can see, putting this text in my own words has helped to cut down on studying so many things. I have summarized each paragraph. This is only one sample of annotation, but it is a start. Annotation is a strategy that can be used in all subjects, and for students who use it regularly, the benefits become apparent. Material is explored deeper in depth, allowing a greater recall of information, and since you are the creator, information is organized logically and in terms you understand. Learning to annotate takes time, but it is a skill that, once applied, will improve comprehension and make your study time all the more productive. Thank you.